Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our first of two Black History Month Lunch and Learns. And it's always a pleasure to have everyone here with us. And we're so excited today with our presenter, but I won't take the glory from Alberta. She's going to do the introductions. But again, thank you, EDI. On behalf of EDI, we are just glad you're here, because we know that as we learn from others, that it only strengthens our organization. So without that anymore, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Alberta for her introduction of our presenter today. Bert, you have the floor.
Great, thanks, Teresa. And I'm very excited to present to you today Hassan Latif. And so Hassan Latif is a certified addiction specialist, a moral recognition therapy facilitator, and a nationally certified cognitive behavior change facilitator. He serves on the board of the Colorado Criminal Justice Reform Coalition and was appointed by the Colorado General Assembly to the Mental Health Disorders in the Criminal and Juvenile Justice Systems Task Force. In 2019, Governor Polis appointed him to the Community Corrections Advisory Council and the Executive Clemency Advisory Board. Hassan is also the 2019 recipient of the prestigious Bonfils Stanton Livingston Fellows Award. So Hassan today will share his experience and speak to how justice-involved men and women can lead lives of success and fulfillment against tremendous odds, and how he reclaimed his life after spending many years in the Colorado prison system. He's become an amazing speaker, positive role model, and has done amazing things in our community. He will discuss the development of a community-based organization that was Black, Indigenous peoples of color and formerly incarcerated persons founded and led. The opposition to this on multiple levels, the community partnerships supportively aligned in the commitment to doing things differently or that have not been previously attempted. So without taking up too much more time, I'm going to give the floor over to Hassan Latif. Welcome, Hassan.
And sir, before you start, I just want to put out this disclaimer. The Colorado Department of Public Safety organizes guest presenters to educate, inform, inspire, and engage our employees in thoughtful discussions of a variety of issues, opinions, and experiences. These events are voluntary, and the views expressed are those of the speakers and not necessarily of CDPS. Many topics can be challenging to discuss, and some content could be an emotional trigger. We encourage you to take care of yourself and take a break whenever you need it during the presentation. In addition, we encourage you to reach out to your supervisor and/or access these any mental health resources that we have provided if you experience any type of triggers. So with that being said, sir, I now turn the floor over to you.
Thank you so much, Teresa. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Hassan Latif, as mentioned, and I really am honored and privileged to be invited to speak to you all during this lunch and learn. I wish it was possible for us to actually be sitting and sharing a meal with each other while we have this conversation. That not being the case, I'll try to make as good a use of this time as possible. I really do appreciate the forum. For me, I have a lot of things in my life that I find so ironic, and for me to be addressing the Department of Public Safety after spending 18 years of incarceration in the state of Colorado, for me that's not lost on me. It actually speaks to and affirms a belief of mine, and one that I've spent some years trying to get our folks, the folks we serve, those returning to community after incarceration, to understand and believe, and that is how different life can be if we just commit to approaching it differently. And so in that vein, I just want to, for those who may be not familiar with our story, I founded Second Chance Center in 2012. For the first year or so, it was just what I call a mobile unit, really just me and my car. And as an addictions counselor at the time, I was offering my services pro bono, really just begging my way into any halfway house that would open a door, and any penitentiary that once housed me that was willing to allow me to come back in and visit. And currently, 10 years later, we're a staff now of 51 full-time employees. and we find ourselves in a position of actually being a model for how reentry is done, not just in Colorado, but across the nation. People are interested in the kind of things we've been able to accomplish here and the kind of opportunities we've gotten to forge partnerships that some people are surprised that we've been able to form. So I just want to touch on a couple of those, if I may, because when we started this work, it wasn't until 2013 that I was actually able to get a grant or get a sub grant and hired the first two people, and they were Sean A. Taylor, who's our deputy director here, and he did 21 years of incarceration after receiving a life sentence for gang-related homicide. The first time he ever pulled the trigger on a real gun, actually. Governor Ritter commuted his sentence 11 years ago. And the second gentleman, Adam Abdullah, our mentoring coordinator, had done 33 years in 3 months. You can't beat him out of those 3 months. He'll say something about it in the federal system. And so cumulatively, we had about 75 years of incarceration time, and quite understandably, people were wondering, like, what are these guys up to? And so we were under a very big microscope, and we felt it. And as a result of that kind of scrutiny, we think that people not only got to see what we were up to, but how we went about our business. And it turned out to be a good thing for us. In 2014, with the help of CCGRC, Colorado Criminal Justice Reform Coalition, on whose board I've sat for the last 10 years, we pushed a piece of legislation, House Bill 1355, which resulted in the Department of Corrections allocating a small amount of funding for community reentry organizations. And the director of that program, Christy Donner, what she proposed in this legislation and what she has proposed in the community for years now is, the question about what different looks like. This is something that we have picked up that mantle, Second Chance Center, in our work, is to try to not just find and explore what different looks like, but then share that vision with other folks. So this particular legislation, it actually it started out a relationship that was adversarial in ways, because some in the department felt that their budget had been hijacked, and in actuality, it had. Some on this call may feel the same way. But over time, we learned that there were common objectives that we shared. In part of this legislation was an intermediary that was written into it. And we were very pleased with that part of the legislation. One, we did not want to work directly for the Department of Corrections at that time. We wanted to maintain the credibility with our population, and we didn't want to get slow paid to death, to be quite honest. And but what turned out to be the biggest benefit of this intermediary, which turned out to be the Latino Coalition for Community Leadership, was that they served as translators for us. Because what we found is that bureaucracy and community did not speak the same language, and we knew that going in. And what the LC served as in other things, that one of the things they served as was interpreters and translators. And when we found out through this service that we had these common objectives, over time we found ways to partner. And so now I'm really pleased to say that, for those who aren't aware, when a piece of legislation is passed in Colorado that comes with a fiscal tag, before it's refunded or defunded, there's an audit that's done. And it comes back to the House Judiciary, and they're told whether or not the program should be continued or discontinued. Well, when we testified before the House Judiciary 3 or 4 years later, sitting next to me was Melissa Roberts, who was the director of the Division of Adult Parole. And so what it showed is that we found a way in those few years to really become partners in this work. When you talk about the Department of Public Safety, one of my staff last year, when we were talking about this work, said to me, "Boss, we're crime fighters." And, and I had never thought about it like that. But the truth of the matter is that if we do our work well, first of all, we don't believe that we can police ourselves out of the public safety issues that all of us are concerned about. There needs to be community involvement and commitment on the parts of not just organizations, but individual members in community. And so my belief is that if we do our jobs really, really well, it'll never be the kind of thing that could be captured in a quarterly report or some annual statement, because quite frankly, it'll just be horrible things that never happen. And we believe God keeps track of those kinds of things. But it's amazing for us that we've been afforded the opportunity to be seen in the ways that many have come to see us as colleagues and partners in this work. And I don't minimize that. That's very satisfying for me as someone who for years felt pretty much invisible. I'm 66 years old, for those who might be wondering, looking at this whited out beard of mine. Actually, it wasn't this white when I started Second Chance Center. So, sometimes with certain positions comes a level of stress and gray hair that you may know something about. But this work and working here in Colorado has really opened my eyes to things that are possible. And we tried to share that with our folks. The way that we have developed relationships with the Department of Corrections and the Division of Adult Parole in particular is an example to our folks. We call what we do here at Second Chance Center role modeling possibilities. And so what we've done with the partnerships that we've developed with the department and with the Division of Adult Parole is an example to our folks that even people you may have historically had adversarial relationships with, that if it's your desire and your commitment, you can find common ground. You can find a way to work with them. We think this is important even on the workplace when we're telling people you're not always going to like your supervisor or your coworker. There's many on this call right now shaking your heads. I feel for you. So for our client partners, it's an example that we can find ways, if we're open to it, if we're looking for it, to work with folks. One of the things people have asked us at Second Chance Center, since we're very proud to have supported a recidivism rate of under 10% for the last almost 8 years. And we attribute that to a couple of things. One, that our folks are really trying harder than they may have ever tried before. For many, this is not technically their second chance. Sometimes it's the third, the fourth, or however many. But also, that provider-recipient power dynamic is something that we reject at Second Chance Center. We understand that we're the stewards of resources, and we've always taken that responsibility very seriously. But we never want our folks to feel like they got to come hat in hand to be served. We think that's a difference with some of the places people returning to community have to go in order to receive assistance or services. So we choose instead to partner with our folks. So basically, when we say the better you do, the better we're going to do, it's not just smoke we're blowing, it's the truth. If it wasn't for the fact that they were transitioning successfully, not reoffending, not going back to the penitentiary 9 out of 10 times, no one would care what Hassan Latif thought was good. I certainly wouldn't be speaking to you all on a lunch and learn session. It's because of their efforts that my voice is heard in these kinds of forums. And so we're grateful to them for trusting a process and trusting a curriculum and really sometimes trusting a vision that they don't have for themselves. Like right now, you. Wife is the one that does this. She'll say, "Give me those glasses, Hassan." My wife, Iman. Unbeknownst to me, there was a thumbprint or donut glaze, and I was unaware of it. It looked fine, like you all look fine, but now it's like HD. Well, our belief is that our eyes are the same way, and if we process new information through the same old filters, everything tends to look the same. We tend to feel the same way about it, and ultimately respond in similar ways to it. And so part of our work at Second Chance Center is to really get our folks to understand that, to try to clean up their filters or change them up, or look at the world in a different way. And we've had some success at that, and I'm very pleased about it. So someone asked, when we were talking before this started, and I was asked about sitting on a panel, a CCJJ panel, which I did for a couple of years, around the issue of housing for folks formerly incarcerated, folks. Well, we were blessed with Second Chance Center. 2 years ago tomorrow, we opened a 50-unit permanent supportive housing development in Aurora on Alameda, just east of Chambers. This was a low-income housing tax credit project that our first effort, our first foray into housing. And it wasn't as though, I want y'all to understand, I would love to wear the mantle of some visionary genius or something like that. It hasn't been that. It never was that. You know, I started this work because of a need that I recognized, having done 18 years in Colorado and coming home to a very strong support network, starting with my wife and having opportunities that most folks coming out of prison did not have. So it wasn't an idea of mine to wind up as a guest speaker in a forum like this. Trust me, I wanted to try to balance my scales in some way. I wanted to try to minimize the continued trauma that many face after the traumatizing experience of incarceration. I wanted for myself, my last victim, to be the last victim. And I wanted other people to understand that concept and share that. So when it came to the housing thing, which was always a big challenge for us, I mean, for years we were putting people in motels like the parole department and others. And, you know, that's all the options we had. But quite frankly, people could open a door at 11 o'clock at night and be confronted with whatever triggered their worst decisions in life. So it was not the best. And then over time, when the association thing was unofficially relaxed by the Division of Adult Parole, instead of going back to prison for associating with someone on parole, you can actually live in a house with other people on parole. Property owners started filling up their homes with as many parolees as possible. And we sent folks to those places too, because like I said, we had no options. And back in 2016, someone was murdered at one of these houses, and we had 3 clients there. And thank God they were at work and they weren't involved. But I went to the house the next morning, and the owner was there. He took me in the basement, and the basement was divided in half by a partition that didn't go all the way to the roof, to the ceiling rather. And on either side were bunk beds made out of wood that were about 12 inches off the floor. And they had the mattresses, the plastic mattresses that I was very familiar with. And it was filthy. And I asked him if it looked like that when he moved guys in. And he looked at me incredulous, like, yeah, why? Well, the why was it looked worse in the basement than upstairs in the kitchen when someone had gotten shot in the head. And I left there thinking, we can't send anybody to these places anymore, and they need to be put out of business. And that began the quest to figure out how to do better than that. The end result of a lot of cooperation and a lot of collaboration and a lot of great partners like Blue Line developers and Bo Simone Consulting and Jen Lopez from the Governor's Office of Homeless Initiatives, and just dozens of folks, Shopwork, some great architects here in Denver. We built a building that is home now to 49 adults and 13 children who were previously homeless or incarcerated, who have disabilities, mental, physical, or emotional, and who are under 30% of area median income. So, you know, it was met with a lot of opposition because people had a vision of what always was in their mind. People thought it would be a halfway house or some drug rehab facility. Actually, it was just an apartment for folks who, many of whom were going to work from their cars, and children who were going to school from cars, and people who had done a lot of time in prison and were unable to find housing on Social Security, as I don't know who can in the Denver metro area anyway. So we're very pleased to be able to do something like that. And our hope is that we'll be able to develop further housing opportunities for folks in the years to come. One thing about this work and what I found in it is that a lot of times after we've been released from incarceration, we still have to do a lot of work to kind of free our minds to think about what different looks like and what's possible. I'm still doing that work. to this day. So there's my guy, Joe Tony, right there, who just his face popped up. You know, I got friends in the department. Don't act like I'm a stranger.
Sorry to ruin your morning, my friend.
No, you're my guy, dude. No problem. Good to see your face. Thank you.
You too, brother.
So yeah. Anyway, I would love to hear any questions or comments. Anybody in the audience, anything you want to know, I'm open. Please don't feel like you have to filter yourself and find the most politically correct way to say a thing. I'm really not that sensitive, and I welcome your thoughts, however they might come out. Well, while you're putting them thoughts together, can I share? Alberta? Can I share a story?
Yes, please.
The first year of Second Shift Center's existence, I got a call from someone, and they told me, they asked me rather, was I going to the community reentry meeting at 940 Broadway? And I said, no, nobody invited me. So he told me where it was supposed to be, and I went to 940 Broadway, and I acted as though I was there to see my parole officer. I put all my things in the tray. I went through the metal detector. I went through the whole process. But instead of going right, I went left. And I shot up to this second floor to this room that I was told the meeting was taking place in. And when I got there were 6 gentlemen there, all white guys and a white woman. And everybody was suited. And I stuck my head in. I asked, is this the community reentry meeting? And they looked at me like, yeah, and I said, well, I don't see anybody from community, so if it's okay, I'm just going to stay. So that was my intro to 940 Broadway. Fast forward, 2019, I get a call from Governor Polis's office, and his assistant says to me, Governor Polis would like to know if you'd be interested in sitting on the Executive Clemency Advisory Board. I said, does he know who he's asking? And just like you, Joe, she laughed. Yes, Mr. Latif, he does. I said, absolutely, I'd be honored. And the first time we met was in December of 2019. I went to 940 Broadway that morning because that's where the Clemency Board meets. And I had a reserved parking space in the same building I had to sneak into 7 years earlier. And I sat in the parking lot, tears falling out of my eyes for probably 15 minutes because I couldn't really grasp that moment, someone that I loved dearly, who I knew was incarcerated for a murder he did not commit. And I knew this for 30 years. When I got the first group of applications, his name was the first one there. And it was the first one we were going to discuss. And I sat there in my car, in my parking space at 940 Broadway, really overwhelmed by that moment and how things had changed. And I'm offering that to you all now because sometimes we get stuck, particularly if we spent years working in an arena where a culture has demanded we move in a certain way, that we step in a certain way, that we process information in a certain way. And I believe that our times demand that we learn to look at things differently and that we learn to be open to guidance about how different could look, and that we be courageous enough sometimes to trust that process. I just wanted to offer that, as I think it's important.
Hassan, that is so profound. It made me think about, how valuable experience is. It's like we tend to look at people academically and think they're more qualified. Mm-hmm. But when you look at somebody's life and what they've been through and what they've had to overcome, that there's so much value in that and what they have to offer, and how relatable they can be and how approachable they can be to their sphere of influence is so much different, and they can help people in ways that people that think they can with their educational background can. They can do it in a better way.
Yeah. Well, you know, when we started doing this work, nobody was using the expression lived experience. You know, we were saying, look, this is what we know. You know, when I say that we have over 300 years of cumulative incarceration time at Second Chance Center, we don't say that with a badge of honor. What we're saying with that is, one, nobody can come in here and tell us anything about doing time. We know all about that. But likewise, we know about the challenges of transitioning. We know that because we've experienced that. We're still transitioning, to be quite honest. It's an ongoing process. And so our folks give us the benefit of the doubt in the trust department. But to your point, Alberta, you know, a lot of our folks feel like if you haven't lived their life, you can't tell them anything. Like, how could you never got high? How could you tell me anything about getting high? You never did any time in jail. We understand that. We take full advantage of our common threads. At the same time, we're trying to get our folks to expand their perception of who can be beneficial to them. I use the analogy, like, if I have a brain tumor, I'm looking for a really good neurosurgeon, not a doctor who also has a brain tumor. You know, excuse the expression. We tell our folks, people don't have to fuck their whole life off to tell you something about yours. You know, so while we're taking advantage of our commonality, our common journeys, we also are telling folks, look outside, expand your perception. You know, and we're saying that to our colleagues in this work as well. You know, I don't have a college degree. I had someone come to interview for a job about 4 years ago, and she said to me, I have a master's in nonprofit management. And the way it sounded to me, my response was, that's wonderful. I'm learning to master nonprofit management. so this is not to discount anyone's, you know, personal educational achievements. We just want folks to understand that all education is not classroom bound. And there are many lessons. I'm going to tell you, the first job I ever had in community was at a community health organization in Five Points. And at the time, I had a parole officer who made it his personal commitment to torment me. And every Wednesday was a session in that torment. And when I finally was able to get an offer of employment, I called him. I was very excited because I hoped that it would relieve some of the pressure that he was putting on me. That started the very first day that I met him, with my wife sitting next to me. He put his finger literally in my face and said, the first chance I get to send you back to prison, that's where you're going. And my response to him was, okay. And that's something we teach at Second Chance Center too, to say, okay. Not that I'm okay with the way you just disrespected me in front of my wife, or the fact that you put your finger in my face, or that you threatened me, but I'm okay with the fact that you made it clear what your position is. And you also put the ball in my court because you said the first chance I give you. So I'm going to make sure that I don't give you a chance. So I called him this day and I told him that I was offered this job. He says, give me the number. And he called this person. And I was still sitting in the office, and he put it on speaker. And my parole officer said, this man's done this, this, and the other. He's this, that, and this. Why would you hire him? And my first thought was, damn, I'm glad I was honest, you know. But this gentleman said, in this community and at this agency, that's a resume. And for me, it was this quantum shift in my thinking, because at that time, I really was committed to doing whatever I needed to do to successfully transition after 18 years. But I did feel like I had this burden that I was going to be carrying forever because of my past and my past behaviors and my convictions. He said it was a resume, and it forced me to look at not just the time that I spent in prison and what I learned during that time, but the kind of things that led me there. It's part of what became part of our work at Second Chance Center, is getting our folks to look for those transferable skills from dysfunctional lives. Like, don't come here thinking you don't have anything to put on a resume, because you do. That you don't have any skills that are beneficial to community, because you actually do. And we've spent a lot of time pointing that out to folks. And so for me, it was a quantum shift in my thinking, so much to the point that someone contacted my wife one day and told her to go to this site on the internet. And it was a site where people post your prison photos, and they like ransom you. So you pay them and they'll take it down. So my wife went to the site, and there I was in my DLC uniform. And I'm like, can you put some disco lights over the top of that? That's like a commercial. You know who you're talking to. You know,
Did
like
she try to get you off of it?
yeah, exactly. Like my wife didn't know who she was sleeping with every night. You know, so but you know, so to look at that for me and many of our staff here, to look at our past as actual resume items, to be able to find some way to take the dysfunction and the trauma and the pain and the dysfunction and the unbelievably horrible decisions many of us have made in our lives, and find a way to use those experiences to actually develop careers of service. It's the kind of thing, if I really try to find words for it, I'd be stuck. It's just a blessing, and we try to share the importance of that with our colleagues who might not understand what that really means for us.
Well, Mr. Hassan, can I, Bert, can I?
Go ahead.
We have several questions. If you'd like to start, answering some of those. And again, I want to thank you for being here. So Alex's question is this: I'd like to hear more about how peer-to-peer support impacts the clients you serve at SCC.
Well, that's a great question, and the fact of the matter is that whether you're staff or you're a client partner, we're all peers in that way. So what we have too is we put the onus on our folks. So for instance, if we send someone to find employment, we send someone and we've done our best to prepare them for a job, and they go and they get this job. They don't have to come back to us, bowing and scraping and grateful. We know you're happy. We're happy for you. What we do need from you is to be a good employee, so that when something opens up, your boss will step to you, say, hey, I need somebody, and you'll call us because we got somebody. If we get you into housing, you don't have to come back and wash our cars, but what you do need to do for us is be a good tenant and a good neighbor, so that this opportunity stays open for the next person. This is the kind of peer-to-peer kind of thing that we do. We put the onus on our folks to look backwards to someone else, to helping someone else. What we believe is that addiction and criminality really are rooted in the same thing, and that's selfishness, about getting mine, having mine, needing mine, whatever. The medicine for that, we believe, is the opposite: giving, selflessness. And someone doesn't have to be in this career field to do that. You could be out a month and your homie just got out yesterday. There's plenty you can give him. There's plenty of support you can give him. And sometimes that's more meaningful than even something coming from me. Well, the groups that we run at Second Chance Center and that I've been a part of for the last 16 years of the time that I've been home, I find that the benefit in groups is not the quality of the facilitator. It's when the group is owned by its members and their input is what's most valuable. What they share, their feedback. That's the peer-to-peer kind of thing. I know where you come from. We talk about respect. Respect is a really big thing in the penitentiaries. It's a really big thing on the street, mostly with people who've lived lives that really didn't garner respect from the larger community. Okay, Black, brown, Native peoples in particular. But for folks to understand the concept of respect like we think they should, if I treat you respectfully, that really says more about me than it does you, because it means that's how I was raised, maybe, or that's how I choose to interact with another human being, whatever. But to actually respect people for their humanity, you got to be able to see them. You have to be able to see them for their struggles, for their losses, for their strengths and weaknesses, for their dreams, their aspirations. You have to see them as full human beings worthy of whatever human beings are worthy of, in order to call yourself a respectful person or interacting with them respectfully. So peer-to-peer thing, that's easy. When it comes to colleagues, sometimes that's where the work, the real work comes in, is getting colleagues to respect our folks. We call them client partners because we've never been satisfied with just participants, with clients. It always seemed like it was a level to this thing that made us uncomfortable. I think that speaks to the peer-to-peer as well. So we call our folks client partners because that's how we see them, as our partners.
Wonderful. Next question, sir. Hillary, I appreciate your vision creativity, positivity, and proactive attitude. How can communities support someone re-entering society after being incarcerated?
That's a wonderful question too. Look, the first 3 years that we were doing this work, Sean and Adam and I in particular, and those that joined us early on, we just tried to keep our heads down. One, we didn't want anybody lobbing them off. You know, we were really afraid of being stunted in our approach to this work and not being given an opportunity. And you know, we met with a lot of resistance early on. But at some point, we realized that if we were going to be able to do the kind of work that really needed to be done, we were going to have the community support us. And so we opened that up. A friend of mine who was pushing me to do this for the longest, get out there in community. And he was trying to tell me, you're the face of Second Chance Center. It always made me uncomfortable. But he said, Hassan, people support causes, but they connect to people. And when he said that, it really resonated with me. And so we started going out to congregations and clubs and schools, anybody that would open a door. And one of the things that I shared in those early days, what I found and what I can still stand on over 16 years back in community. I've never met one person in the last 16 years who didn't have someone in their family who has struggled with mental health issues, substance use disorder, trauma of some sort. Behind some of the most idyllic family portraits on mantelpieces in America are the most horrific horror stories that you can imagine. And so we use these common threads to open up conversation with folks. You know, these issues, these are common issues. These are community issues. These are societal issues. And so doing that, I believe is what garnered the kind of support. When we first started doing this and got that grant for reentry work from the Department of Corrections in 2014, that was 95% of the budget of Second Chance Center. This past year, it amounts to 17% of our budget. So over the course of the last 7 years, you know, we've increased our support in community with congregations and individuals in local foundations and national foundations, because people see the importance of this work in a way I don't think many had seen before. And so, you know, when you ask what can people do to support folks coming back from incarceration, first of all, if you have someone in your family, give them the benefit of the doubt that they may have connected a couple of dots. Some things may have changed. You know, sure, they've said it before, you've heard it before, but you know, it may very well be different. If they haven't connected to a community-based organization, please advise them to do so. That legislation started out funding 4 agencies. It now funds 21 organizations in the state of Colorado, okay, in all areas from La Junta to Denver. So please, if you know someone that needs assistance, direct them to a community-based organization. It doesn't have to be Second Chance Center, but we'll certainly welcome them if they come through. If you choose to support one of these organizations, whether it's financially or volunteering to support, you know, we collect furniture for first apartments. You know, there are a lot of things that the individual can do to support this effort. Here's the thing. Everybody should be concerned about this. 98% of the people that are currently incarcerated will one day come back to community. So, I mean, it only behooves us to think about what they have to endure while they're incarcerated and what assistance is available for them when they come out. You know, we don't want to see anyone else hurt. That's, if I'm not mistaken, the job, the duty, the task of the Department of Public Safety is just that as well. And so we have that common goal and objectives. And so, yeah, that's you can find ways to support it, whether it's here in Denver, Metro Denver, or in any other part of the state where you happen to be working. Please look for a community-based organization. The Wages program, which is monitored by the Latino Coalition for Community Leadership, is in 21 different locations in the state of Colorado. And they're all providing wraparound services of every kind that's needed for folks coming out of prison.
Wonderful. And just so you can hear another voice other than Alberta's and mine, Miss Debbie would like to ask a question, but we have a whole list of questions for you, so we'll
Okay,
keep
go ahead,
going.
Debbie. Debbie, please.
Looks like she left the meeting.
Oh,
I just saw that.
she probably was trying to unmute. So while she's coming back on, let's go to the next question. What sort of volunteer opportunities? Oh, there she is. Debbie, take the floor.
Sorry. So I hit end call instead of unmute.
Oh, that's okay.
So how's that?
That's okay.
So I'll see if I can form this into a question, or maybe just have you share your thoughts. But I'm curious, you're talking a lot about kind of connecting to the community and helping people, you know, view folks with lived experience in a different way. I'm curious what your thoughts are in terms of, I'm going to say, the system and your efforts to change the system's view of that and how that's hopefully changing over time. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about in a little bit of a different arena, but I worked in health and human services and child abuse and neglect for years. And the idea of family engagement became a big concept. And I was working with a caseworker one time where we were really trying to have them engage with the family. These parents had made some poor choices, but have them voice what they needed in their case plan, what would be helpful to them to succeed.
Yes.
And so the caseworker did that, asked the folks to bring that to their next meeting. And it was remarkable, impressive, moving to me how much work, time, and energy they put into it. Here comes the sad part. They presented it, the caseworker listened and then said, okay, and proceeded to hand them the case plan that he had written for the family. And so really completely not acknowledging or validating or hearing anything they had to say. And so I'm curious, you know, what, if you have thoughts about that when you're either working with the system to help get support for your organization, or when you sit on different boards, do you feel progress is being made in terms of people really listening and hearing and incorporating that?
Yeah, well, first of all, Debbie, thanks for the question. And all those things you listed are examples of what the problem is. You know, people's voices not being heard or acknowledged as having value. Let me just say, I do acknowledge tremendous progress. Like I said, I'm 66 years old. So the year I was born is the year Emmett Till got murdered. The fact that we're still dealing with the same kind of thing, the same kind of racist expressions of hate in America today, that aside, I have seen progress that I never would have imagined. I mean, I have Dean Williams's cell phone number on my cell phone. I have Phil Weiser's number on my phone. I banged with his office for 10 years, you know, trying to get out of the penitentiary. And now I have the AG's phone number, you know, and could actually call these gentlemen when there's an issue or a problem or bounce something off of them. So when you ask, is there progress? Hell yeah, there's progress, you know, because these are people who are in really powerful positions who understand what you're talking about, that the most impacted have a voice and sometimes have an idea about what might work best for them. So my experience with Dean and others in this work is that I found them to be open in ways I hadn't expected. Still, there are folks, and I sit on a commission, a board, an advisory board with Joe. And the relationship I have with Joe and the benefit that I've gotten from his experience and his wisdom and his guidance over the years, I don't have that same relationship with many on that board, because I feel as though many of them are dismissive of what I might have to say or my experiences. I'm still experiencing that, Debbie. It doesn't stop me from doing what I think I need to be doing. It might limit my engagement with them on one level or another, but it certainly doesn't dissuade me from this work. I do think there's progress. And the thing that we point to is the success of folks who don't have a track record, not normally of successful achievements. And we point to that, whether it's on our staff or in our client partner population. And we just hope that people are influenced by what different looks like, even if it's, look, let me just say, we have served 3 generations of the same family at Second Chance Center. When you say that, that's not an example of a family that's just so screwed up they can't get it right. That speaks to a systemic problem. When you have 3 generations of the same family spending time in a prison, okay? When people ask me about the system, Debbie, and they talk about it being broken, I'm telling you, I do not believe that. I don't think it's broken at all. I think it's operating exactly as it was designed to operate. An extension of slavery, Jim Crow. We're talking about, this is Black History Month, isn't it? Okay, so when I'm speaking to the choir, I hope that I'm speaking to the choir in this regard. So this system, as it was designed, is to take advantage of certain population primarily. That's Black and brown people, okay? And it works really well in that regard. So when you ask what my experience with the system is, first of all, I was committed as of 2006, January 4th, to changing the system personally by keeping my Black ass out of it. And so for 16 years plus, I've been successful in that regard. Likewise, I've put a lot of effort into helping other people avoid a return to it, and we hope that we're influencing the next generation by eliminating the influence of parental absence, which is the kind of thing that keeps this cycle going on and on. So I don't know if I answered your question well. I certainly did try, Debbie, but thanks.
Yeah, you absolutely did. And I'm glad to hear what you had to say. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jeff asked the question, what sort of volunteer opportunities are there at SCC?
Oh, that's a great question as well. Recently we opened up a new lab. It's funny, during COVID, we had some tremendous things that happened because 2 years ago tomorrow, like I told you, we opened Providence at the Heights, our apartment building in Aurora. We call it Path. So 2 years ago, we opened Path. A year ago, January 4th, we moved into this building. We're now in a two-story office building in Aurora on Potomac and Second. We outgrew everything we ever worked out of, including my car. And so we've had those 2 tremendous opportunities during this pandemic. And so anyway, we opened up a new lab. We did some reconstruction with the help of Impact 100, which is a group of 200 ladies here in the Denver metropolitan area. They each donate $1,000 a year, and once a year they award grants, $100,000 and two $50,000 grants. This year they chose Second Chance Center for the $100,000 grant. We use it to build a state-of-the-art computer lab for our apprenticeship readiness program and our other computer classes for our client partners. And so we're looking for volunteers with helping folks with computer skills. I mean, a lot of our people are coming out with 0 of those skills. I know personally, when I came home, when I went to prison, I didn't know anyone who had a computer in their home. And when I came out, everybody did. So there's that gap. And so we're looking for volunteers that could help, tutor folks in computer skills. We're looking for volunteers for financial literacy classes that we do here. If anybody is looking for volunteer efforts, please, Alberta, if you make my contact information available, we'll certainly point that out to anyone. There are a lot of things that we're doing here that community has supported us in. We ran vaccine clinics for 12 weeks here at Second Chance Center, and in the heart of it, when they first became available, when we vaccinated 1,000 folks. The last person was number 1,000, which was our goal, amazingly. People who probably would not have chosen to be vaccinated if it wasn't for the fact that they trusted this space. So we also ran a clinic to expunge people's records. And what we found with 15 lawyers on hand that day is that it wasn't our clients that were coming through looking for that. It was our neighbors, people who have been saddled with misdemeanor and felony convictions for decades. and having barriers to their life's development as a result of it. And so, we took a lot of volunteer help to pull that off. So, these are things that we want to continue doing because there's the continued need for that kind of thing, expungement clinics and the like. So please share my information, Alberta. I'll be more than happy to share opportunities with anybody that reaches out about it. Thanks, whoever posted that question. Thanks for even asking, because we can't do this work without the help of community. So thank you.
Question. Brandy wants to know, do you do any work with the public defender's office when they have clients getting ready to re-enter in the world outside of prison?
Yes, in fact, we work with them sometimes before they go to prison. For years, judges, after a few years of doing this work, judges started telling people at sentencing, when you get out, go to Second Chance Center. And we were like, that's great, but can you involve us maybe before they go to prison? So we've been able to intervene sometimes in younger defendants and get a chance to work with them, get them in some of our mentoring groups, and it's impacted sentencing in many cases. But yes, we have lawyers all the time reaching out. We have family members all the time reaching out to us, trying to get us prepped and prepared for their folks. We don't really need that kind of preparation. We know what people need, and we're prepared to provide that assistance when they come out. All they got to do is find their way here. So, here's the thing. People ask how we advertise. We really don't need to. I'm going to tell you. I don't know if there's anybody else on this call that has experience actually doing time. Be surprised. Y'all might not know. But when you're in prison, we know who's coming back to prison, usually before they catch a case, because we hear about what's going on in the street and we know how it ends. Well, the reverse of that is true as well. Anytime there's someone out in the community doing anything noteworthy, particularly if it has something to do and might have an impact on their lives when they come out, they follow it. So they've been following us since we were in my 10-year-old Jaguar. Okay, we think it generates hope for folks inside, because they know, even the few that have failed out here and wound up going back, they go back saying, damn, I should have listened to them guys. So even they are advertising for us. So people are really looking for this help, thinking that maybe this time I'll be able to make it. So yeah, we don't need to advertise for our folks, but anytime attorneys reach out to us, we make sure that they know, just get them here and we'll take care of the rest.
And because we're running short on time, there are some comments in the chat, but people are thanking you. They're glad you're here speaking. Brett had a comment in there about a man's future, not being able to change his past. What can we do? And no man can change his past. What we can change is our future. Society weighs heavy on a person's past and not give them the opportunity to change the future. Cameron, Mr. Latif, it has been an honor to hear from you. Thank you for being here. Hillary had a question though, and her question is, do you have partners in other states?
Oh, that's a great question. We actually are doing some work now. I've actually this past year, we moved a new executive director into Second Chance Center, which is Khalil Halim, and I, as founder, have moved to some other responsibilities. One includes the continued development of housing here in Colorado, but also expanding our footprint nationally. And we're doing that, not trying to take over cities, but really trying to offer help to those grassroots organizations that have reached out over the years. COVID has stopped a lot of that, but yes, we have folks that we are supporting right now in Rhode Island and in New York and other places with our curriculum and our support. And we look for opportunities to do more of that in the coming months and years. Okay.
Ariel had said, guidance from their peers in society. That is how they will succeed. Love this. Thank you so much for speaking today. I would love to help spread awareness and the charity. Where can I get information?
Well, we have a website. Thank you for even considering it. We have a website, www.scccolorado.org. And we have a Facebook page. We're on all the platforms, even those that I don't know how to access. So please follow us on Facebook. Go to our website, check us out. Actually, stop by and visit. You don't need to make an appointment. We live in the same way every day. So if you're in the area, pull into the parking lot, step up in the building, and you'll see what we're doing, and we'd love to have you.
All right, be careful what you ask for, because a whole bunch of us gonna be at your doorstep right now,
That's all right.
volunteering and doing whatever else we can do. So
You find yourself welcome. Thank you so much.
This is from Courtney. As an individual who grew up and went to school in the inner city, I know the positive impacts which programs can provide to our kids and our communities. Do you also work with juveniles who are on the wrong track in the hopes they can turn their life around?
Thank you for that question. And I was raised in New York, so I have the same experience. It was a time we avoided the younger population, the youth population, one, because it really wasn't our lane, and we were trying to focus on what we thought we might be able to be impactful. But, over the years, we found that, our folks were returning to children who were damaged by their absences, and trying to help them help their children has really brought us closer to finding ways to work with the youth. And when we see this spike in youth violence and gun violence in particular in Aurora and other parts of Metro Denver, we're looking for ways to not just to jump into the fray, because there are a lot of organizations, well, not a lot, but there are a number of organizations in Metro Denver that are doing good work with youth. We just want to find ways to support them and to open up our space and our facility to those who are doing the work and might just need some safe space to meet. And so one thing I want to just throw out there really quickly, in 10 years, we've never had a violent altercation on SCC grounds. It's like Switzerland. People come here that were shooting at each other 5 summers ago, but they come here because, one, they know it's safe, and 2, they come here because they're looking for a different way. They want to know what different could look like in their lives.
And we still have questions, and in the sake of time, we'll answer your questions. We'll if Mr. Latif has time, we'll stay on, give him those questions, or maybe present them to him, and he can give them back to us in writing. And then what we will do is to send them out to you. So I mean, you are incredible, and we're so glad that you're here. And I've been talking a lot with the questions, but I'm going to turn it over to Alberta real quickly so that she can talk about our next upcoming event. But before I do that, I would never want to miss an opportunity to thank our leadership for allowing us this spaces. And it's so nice to see so many of you on this morning to be here with us, to connect, and to be a part of EDI. It is always a pleasure to have leadership, because we could not do this without you. We will not do this without you. And we thank you for continuing to be in our space, giving us the space to have incredible events like this. So Alberta, I'll turn it over to you.
I second that. Thank you all.
Well, I would like to say thank you, Hassan, for agreeing to present to our department. We're very honored to have you. And we hope that you can return sometime in the future.
I'd love to, and I'll answer any of those questions. If you get them to me, I certainly will try to answer all of those questions.
Yeah, we'll get those out to you, and then we'll provide that information to personnel with all the answers.
Everybody, please stay safe.
Okay.
And before we go, we've got our executive deputy director on the line. I don't know if she wants to say a few words, but I would be remiss if I didn't give her a chance to, just have a word or two. Jana?
Oh, my Teresa, you're too kind. I just want to say thank you, Mr. Latif, for being here. I've heard you speak before, and it's always inspirational. And thanks to the EDI Council in Alberta for making this happen.
Thank you, John.
It's been a great lunch and learn, as it always is.
My honor, my pleasure. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
that's it.
I don't want to cheat you all, but we do have 55 seconds. I'll take. Can you talk real fast? I want every second that we said we were going to take with you. So I'm gonna see if I can get another quick question in here.
Please go ahead.
What direction would you suggest for me to be part of the service? This is Benjamin, part of service.
Well, we have a mentoring group that we do every Saturday called Never Going Back. It's based off the book that I wrote 10 years ago, Never Going Back, 7 Steps to Staying Out of Prison. It's an open forum. People are welcome to come through. So if you're interested, come through. It's Saturday mornings, 9 o'clock, between 9 and 11. We invite guest speakers, guest participants. We'll pull up another chair if you want to come in and sit down. And so everybody's welcome.
Wonderful.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And we now have 3 seconds. I thank you all again, and we will talk to you soon. 12:30. I'm right on time for a change.
Thank you. God bless.
Thanks, Hassan. Wonderful job.
Take care, Joe.
See ya.
We're all together again. We're here. We're here.
How many were on how many participants?
We got up to 100. Woo!
Yay.
So that was another great attendance for everybody. So I'm just happy, and thank you all so much.
Yep, that was.
That, you know, that was one where we had more questions than any other presentation that we've had. So to the you know, the work group and to the council members that are still with us, you know, we may want to hold on.